Tuesday, everybody, from the press box here on the Right Team podcast. I'm David Weaver, and once again, excited to be joined by my co-host, pastor of Friendship Baptist Church in Marshall, also the sports director extraordinaire at KMHT 103.9 FM, the heartbeat of East Texas, also in Marshall, Texas, my good friend, pastor, and brother, Matt Paul. How you doing,
Good to see you, man. Good morning.
Well, you can see behind me here, I've changed my backdrop again today, again from the press box, in keeping with the theme of our show. You actually were here last night, and you will be here again this evening.
Yep.
How was the playoff game last night in the gym?
You know, it was good. Hooks won handily. I believe it was 54-30. But it was not one of those games. Some of those blowout games, you're like, okay, one of these teams is good and one of these teams is not. That is not the case. Mount Pleasant, Chapel Hill was a really good team. A roster of 12, and Chapel Hill had 5 freshmen. Their 3 leading scorers were 2 freshmen and a sophomore. So it's one of those teams that I'd say, watch out for them. Their primary ball handlers were freshmen. It was really interesting to watch. Hooks had 4 girls that were at least 6 foot tall. It's a 3A school. They had a sophomore point guard that you could not leave open. Hooks a very dynamic, diverse, athletic team. So it was a good game. It really was. It was more competitive than what the score indicated. But I mean, Chapel Hill did not have anyone sniffing 6 feet tall, and Hooks had 4 of them. And I think that was a big difference in the game.
Yeah, as you can see, their backdrop today again is Maverick Gym in Marshall, the home of the Mavericks, so to speak. And again, they will be having boys senior night tonight. We'll talk about that again here as we get into the high school roundup. But yeah, a lot of memories in this place for me, Matt. I was there, of course, as a student, and back in the 80s when the gym first opened. And it was considered a kind of a jewel of East Texas when it was built new. It was a newer gym and everything. And of course, over time, things age and you have to get things fixed and spruced up and everything. And typically your gym, especially in a football centric place like Marshall, sometimes gets kind of put on the back burner. But probably late 2010s or so, the school board and the district made it a priority to kind of rebrand, and that's where you see the red seating behind you there, and went from the old wooden benches that were there that were terrible to sit on if you had any sort of back issue for sure, but even if you were somewhat healthy, I mean, it was just not very comfortable.
You might develop a back issue.
You could very easily.
Yeah.
Could very easily, but now it's one of the newer, cleaner, better looking venues in East Texas. So kudos again to Marshall for doing that. And it's become a kind of a stop on the playoff trail here again as we get going into playoff season. Before we get going too much further in the show, of course, today we want to thank our sponsors who support our podcast. East Texas Baptist University combines strong academics with championship level athletics and a Christ-centered mission that impacts every part of campus life. If you're looking for a university that values faith, competition, and community, ETBU is worth checking out. Today's show is also brought to you by Styles Electric, based right here in East Texas with offices in Longview and Mount Pleasant. Styles Electric has been providing dependable, professional electrical work for over a quarter century in East Texas and beyond. When experience matters, Styles Electric delivers service that speaks for itself. And finally, once again, today's episode is brought to you by Right Team Services. Right Team Services helps schools, small businesses, and nonprofits turn ideas into impact through effective writing, clear messaging, and meaningful connection across your websites and social media platforms. When you need results but don't quite have the words to say, let Right Team Services provide the voice you need. Contact me today at 903-926-1766 to learn more about how we can help you tell your story. Okay, I missed this yesterday, Matt, and I wanted to circle back around to it because I wanted to get your thoughts. I know you were on D-Now weekend this weekend. Were you able to catch any of NBA All-Star Weekend?
I caught the back half of Sunday's game, which of course is a new format with the World team and then 2 USA teams, and they kind of play around robin, and then the 2 top teams meet for the championship. So I got to see the last couple games of that. Didn't get to see any of the other stuff. It was just too busy a weekend.
I didn't watch any of it, to be honest. I had a lot of stuff going on here with Bell Show and then just Sunday, not a whole lot going on, but just didn't watch a lot of basketball. But I had watched the highlights and followed it around. I was a little bit surprised to see that final score when it popped up in the game. I was thinking that is an NBA All-Star game, but yeah, like you said, it was a round robin type deal, which is a little bit different. But based on most of everything that I've heard, man, the particularly the slam dunk contest was a dud. You know, at some point, I think I don't know how creative you can be to come up with dunks that are different because we've been doing them for so long. A little bit of a surprise, I think, in the 3-point shooting contest when Dame Lillard won that one. Based on his injuries this year and everything, he just kind of shows up and wins the 3-point shooting contest at the All-Star game.
Yeah. That was neat, and that was one of the highlights. Yeah, the dunk contest has long been, it's just kind of run its course unless you have the big personalities. There have been these moments like when Dwight Howard was in it. It was something when you had this kind of back and forth with Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon for a couple years that were really good. I would be in favor with the dunk contest of potentially making it like a long dunk contest, like you set a baseline where you have to jump from to dunk it, and then you keep increasingly move it back, and maybe do something like that. Or one thing that I've heard that I would love, I think it would be fascinating to watch guys like Steph Curry, Dame Lillard, LeBron James, whoever play horse. I think, or if you just want to do pig, where it's only 3 letters, I think that could be wildly entertaining because we're at a point now where it's so hard to come up with new dunks. But if Curry's hitting a hook shot from 35 feet, I'm locked in. I want to see it.
Or Luka Doncic's hitting, 3/4 court shots.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. That's an interesting idea where I think you could get those veteran stars more invested in All-Star Saturday in particular. That's part of the problem is none of the stars want to participate in the dunk contest anymore.
Yeah.
There's really nothing to it for them. But yeah, something like that where it would be just fun, backyard type stuff. Yeah, I would watch that for sure.
I did think Sunday was good. I did, it's funny. To me, all you needed to know, when the younger U.S. team hit a 3-pointer in overtime to beat the world team, you could clearly see Victor Wembanyama agitated as he walked off the court, and he was interviewed afterward, and he said, this is his quote, "It was our second time allowing a 3 when we shouldn't have. I would have expected us to be smarter right here, so that was disappointing." To me, that's the guy that's taking this thing for real.
Seriously. And that's probably good to see with a newer generation coming along if they can develop that. And I get it. Look, we talked about the Pro Bowl. It's an extra exhibition, which is really what it is. You don't want to risk any kind of injury, so that's naturally going to make you throttle it down a little bit. It is what it is. But I remember back in the day, when you got Michael Jordan calling out who he's going to guard and pushing people away, Kobe Bryant, that kind of thing. That was fun to watch.
Yes.
The best on best playing their best. And we've just kind of gotten away from that for various reasons. And it's just made it unwatchable again for me, sort of like the Pro Bowl is. So,
and I feel like, you watch those games Sunday, and you had, one that comes down, that Scotty Barnes hits the game-winning 3 in overtime, another one that De'Aaron Fox hits a game-winning 3 at the buzzer. Kawhi Leonard just sort of, it was like he found the fountain of youth. The dude scored 31 points in an 8-minute game against the world to put them out. It was just incredible to see. My only thing that I wish they would have done a little different is not divide up the All-Star US into the older and the younger, because it took all the older had to beat the world, and then they had to turn right around and play the younger one in the championship. And it was very evident. you sometimes say the younger guys have a step on them. They had a step and a half or 2 steps on them. And so that game ended up being really, really lopsided. But the games themselves, it was just four quarters of basketball. I said 8 minutes. I think it was 12 minutes. 4 quarters of basketball. The first quarter was younger US versus the world. Then you had younger US versus older US. You had older US versus the world, and then so I don't know. I thought it was well done and it was exciting to watch. Just hated that the older guys had to come right back out, and so maybe if they divide them up east and west or something like that, where you've got a mix of that, it would be a little better. But I thought it was a cool format, and I mean, you had 2 games that came down to buzzer beaters, 2 of the 4.
What you want and those
Yeah,
kinds of things. Yeah, it keeps the audience hanging. It's like keeping a Super Bowl close late. You don't drop those viewers off at the end for sure.
Absolutely.
Let's jump into our high school roundup here. Wanted to get some of these girls' scores in that played last night in the first round of the UIL playoffs, the by-district round. Starting first with some scores here from 5A D1. I was unable to track down a score for Texas High and McKinney North or Lufkin and Walnut Grove. Matt, were you able to find those out from your contacts?
I did not. I'm wanting to see if I can
you try to track those down here while I kind of go down this list. I did find the final score between Lovejoy and Mount Pleasant. Lovejoy knocks out the Tigers of Mount Pleasant last night, 38-31. So Mount Pleasant season is over in the by-district round. Of course, the district champion White House plays Anna tonight at 6:30 in Sulphur Springs. Texas High and Lufkin again played their by-district games last night. We'll track down those scores here moving forward. Scores from the 4A D2 ranks. Brownsboro knocks off number 18 Chapel Hill. A bit of an upset there, 47-41 last night at UT Tyler. And then Maybank defeated Kilgore 57-51. And then tonight playing number 23 Spring Hill versus number 17 at Canton at 8 o'clock in Mineola. 3A ranks, Atlanta knocked off Jefferson, a bit of a mild upset there. Atlanta came to that one with a sub 500 record, knocks off the Bulldogs 51-47 last night in Dangerfield. Number 14 Mineola cruised to a 40-point win over Gladewater, 77-37. That game was played at Tyler Junior College. Number 8 Liberty Ilo defeated Hugh Springs even in a lot bigger lopsided loss here, 70-26. That was not much trouble at all for the Leopards last night. And then the other 3A D1 game from our area, Malakoff knocks off Sabine 45-35, again in another game played at TJC. 3A D2 ranks, games played last night. Had quite a few of these played last night. Hooks 54 over Mount Pleasant Chapel Hill. Of course, Matt mentioned that at that game played at Maverick Gym in Marshall. DeKalb knocks off Harmony 45-31. Whitman held off Tatum 44-32. That game was played in Tyler at Legacy High School. And then on Monday night at Union Grove High School, Edge's Troop 28-26, and another very low-scoring defensive battle there going on at Union Grove, but Edgewood advances to the second round of the playoffs.
And I think Edgewood will get Hooks is what I saw in the second round. So
I believe that's how it works out on the bracket here. Games in 2A D1, all of those are taking place tonight. Union Grove versus Overton, Joaquin versus Woden, Hawkins versus Cushing, and of course the big one for us in our area, Elysian Fields is playing San Augustine tonight. That game tips off at 7 o'clock at Garrison High School. 2A D2, some games played last night. Number 25 Harleton survived a pretty tough challenge by Mount Enterprise, but the Lady Cats come out of that one with a 38-30 victory, played in Art. West Sabine upsets number 18 Timpson last night, 41-33. That game was played in Center, so the Bears go down. They're a little bit early probably than what they were expecting, ranked number 18 in the state.
Yeah, just had Coach Strong for Harleton on my show this morning. They will play West Sabine Friday night, 6 o'clock at Gary High School. And it was kind of, you talk about Harleton getting a challenge. It's kind of par for the course for them this year. They're a grinded out team. If you're wanting to watch a team win pretty, maybe don't watch the Harleton girls. They are tough, defensive minded. A lot of games like that score last night, 38-30. And it was funny, I left that Hooks Chapel Hill game, got in my car, and turned on the end of the Harleton Mount Pleasant game. Excuse me, Mount Enterprise game. And Mount Enterprise hits a three with about 2 to 3 minutes to go to cut it to 35-30. And I mean, it was the closest the game had been. And you know how it is, playoffs, and sometimes you're like, is our season about to end? They didn't score again. Harleton just sort of did what they do. They clamped down. They got rebounds. They forced turnovers. They made enough free throws to add to the lead, and they put the game away. Harleton is one of these teams that if you get in the last 2 minutes and you're down by more than 5 or 6 points, I don't know how you're going to do it. You're just going to have to get lucky and make some deep shots because they just kind of choke the life out of you a little bit. So it'd be a good matchup. Anxious to see. Coach Strong said West Sabine, a very fundamentally sound team. That one will be available on the Heartbeat Friday night, but I think it ought to be a good one.
The other game that played last night from 2A D2 from our area, Douglas defeats McLeod 46-27. That game was played here in Hallsville at Bobcat Coliseum at Hallsville High School. And then one game playing tonight, Tenaha is taking on number 8, Shireno. That game is to be played at 7:30 this evening at Center. So that is your girls playoff rundown here on the Right Team podcast.
You know what Coach Strong also told me? Do you know it's funny? In some of these classifications, in basketball, the lower division is better than the upper division. He said in 2A, if they get by West Sabine, it's probably Martins Mill waiting on them. Mm-hmm. Douglas and Chirino are over on the other side. It is. He said no slam on the upper division, but like the lower D2 of Class 2A would probably win a head-to-head matchup, the top teams in D2 against D1. It's funny how that works out sometimes.
Yeah, just really since we've been doing this podcast, since we started back in August, for several years, I'll just be honest, I didn't really closely follow local basketball at the high school level, anything really outside of football, baseball, or softball. I was kind of in the dark on back, in contrast to my earlier days as a, local news sports editor. And so I was a little bit surprised that I was not aware until I actually started digging into this here on the podcast that they had actually split the basketball as well. I thought it was a 1 through 4, all 4 go to the same bracket kind of thing. And it's not
recent development.
And it gets a little bit convoluted if you're not aware of that, because teams and districts are now in different brackets and things like that, and it's more along the lines of what it used to be in football back in the day, where according to your enrollment you went big school or large school bracket, right? That kind of thing. And of course football does it differently now. They have big school, large school districts. Right. And that's how that's separated. But in basketball, it's back kind of the old way it used to be. But if you're not used to that and haven't been around in a while, it can be surprising to kind of read these brackets and see, why a Harleton is not necessarily playing in the Legion Field, so to speak.
No doubt about it.
Okay. Let's kind of run down our boys schedule here, Matt. I know we have some insight here as to the way these district races are coming down to the wire here in East Texas. And of course, tonight is season finale night, is senior night for most places. You know that very well. And so some big nights going on here, but a lot of them do have some playoff implications here. Let's start with District 10 6A. Our local schools, Tyler Legacy enters their season finale. They'll be playing at North Forney this evening at 7:00. The Red Raiders are 21-11, 8-3 in district. That puts them at second place, just behind Rockwall, but 2 of their 3 district losses are to Rockwall. So wow. Rockwall, with a 16-14 overall mark on the season, is 9-2. But because of those 2 wins over Legacy, they will be the district number 1 representative of the district champion based on tiebreakers alone. Speaking of Rockwall, they will be at Longview this evening in Lobo Coliseum. Longview closing out their season. Kind of a disappointing fashion, I would think. For Lobos, they're 18-13 overall, but they are 2-9 in district play. That includes a 7-game losing streak heading into tonight, and things don't get any easier with the district champ coming to town.
Yeah, my goodness.
Previous meeting this year, actually, Longview lost to Rockwall 70-39.
Wow.
So anyway, those are the top two teams in District 10 6A. The other teams, just incidentally, Roy City is playing at Forney, and Rockwall Heath is, of course, the team with the bye week or the bye night tonight, and they are in fourth place currently. That's an interesting game going on in Forney between Forney and Roy City. Roy City enters that game one game behind Legacy in the standings, and Forney is actually one game back of Heath, who they split with. So a little bit of playoff intrigue there for those final couple of playoff spots still to go going into tonight's action.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. You always love it when Tuesday night, the last night of the regular season, when you've got that playoff intrigue, especially if you're a neutral observer. Look, I'm going to the Marshall game. I'm really glad we've clinched our spot. I wouldn't want to be dealing with that, but as a neutral observer, when you know, okay, if this team wins and something else happens, it's just it's one of the things that makes basketball so riveting, I think.
Absolutely. Just the schedule in 10-5A, then I'm going to let Matt give us a little bit more insight how the playoffs stack up. But Marshall would be it was actually Nacogdoches at Marshall tonight, correct?
Yeah, senior night for Marshall, yeah.
Jacksonville is at White House, Mount Pleasant is at Tyler, and then Texas High will be at Hallsville. Lufkin is undefeated, of course, in district. They are idle tonight, and of course, they've already clinched the district championship. Anything left to decide there, Matt, in these standings as far as playoffs go?
There's not. Lufkin and Tyler will be going to the big tournament. Lufkin, the top seed, Tyler, the 2. Mount Pleasant and Marshall will be going to the Division II tournament. Mount Pleasant will be the top seed. Marshall will be the 2. Now you're just playing out the string, hoping to win on a senior night, trying to get your ducks in a row because the playoffs are coming.
Okay, the rest of the districts that I'm going to break down here, I've gone on, Matt, and again, with a little bit of a disclaimer that I am getting this information from Max Preps, which is not 100% accurate. We both know that.
Right.
But it is the best thing I can find on the internet in terms of trying to find out what districts they at least have some semblance of district standings. And some of them are correct, but just kind of putting that disclaimer on there. Some of this information is taken directly from that information that's available on the Max Preps website. But District 15 4A, Brownsboro is at Maybank tonight. Kemp is at Lindale. Athens is at Van, and Canton is the team with the bye night here on the finale. So the way this district shakes out, Canton currently holds a tiebreaker over Van, having swept the Vandals twice. Maybank and Lindale are currently tied for spots 2 and 3 in this district, with Lindale having swept that season series. So those notes coming out of the district standings, that's how those games set up tonight. Athens is the district champ. They go into tonight's action with a 19-3 mark and 10-1. Kind of interesting here to see. And if you first look at the standings and don't think and kind of time in with football season, you can tell which some of these schools, these smaller schools, actually went deep into the football playoffs because they've played less basketball games than some of their opponents. And so, for instance, Athens only has 22 games which they've played this season, while Van has 31, right?
Which is curious because, it's funny. I was talking to Coach Boyd, the Marshall basketball coach, last night, because he was approached about, they do those playoff preview games. There's no game scheduled for Friday for the boys. Obviously, if there's play-in games, that will happen. But if you don't have a play-in game, you have the opportunity to schedule a game with somebody that's also trying to prep for a playoff game. But I didn't realize this. Coach Boyd told me that the Mavericks actually can't because they've played a certain number of games.
Right.
And they've already reached that point. Whereas a team like Athens, like you said, who's definitely in the playoffs, I wonder if they're going to try to schedule a game Friday because they haven't played that many games.
Regional final football season, I believe, and that will, again, these smaller schools with numbers and everything like that, and it gets a lot more involved when you get down into 3A and the 2A ranks in particular.
Yes.
That they're just going to have played less basketball games because of those deep football runs, because they have to wait on football players and coaches really that are able to actually make that shift into basketball.
That's right.
So all of that is to kind of explain some of these records being a little bit off kilter in terms of number of games played. Speaking of the 4A ranks, again, staying here, District 16 4A, Gilmer will be at Kilgore this evening. That game tips off at Kilgore at 6:30. Carthage is at Chapel Hill at 7:30. Henderson makes the trip up to Longview to play Pine Tree at 7:30. And then, Matt, I couldn't really track down a whole lot of information on this. According to Max Preps, this game was supposedly played last night, but I could not find anything on that. But it's the bottom two teams in the district standing. Spring Hill was at Cumberland Academy to finish out their season. So, but the important part as far as the district standings go, here's some notes coming from that's going into that schedule tonight. So Gilmer and Carthage right now are tied for fourth place, with Gilmer holding a head-to-head tiebreaker over the Bulldogs. Kilgore is locked into a playoff spot along with Chapel Hill and Pine Tree. So you've got 3 of the 4 spots already locked up, with the only one left to be decided is Gilmer and Carthage. And again, Gilmer is on the road at Kilgore, which is 9-4. Carthage is on the road at Chapel Hill, which is 12-1. So the tougher challenge there, based on what you're seeing, definitely goes to Carthage, which has played according to this schedule. And again, it's the best I could find. If they played more than this, but of course they are the football state champions. They played right up until Christmas.
Right.
They're 8-9 on the season. So basically their basketball season has been their district schedule, starting in January.
Well, I feel bad if you're just a basketball player in Carthage. It's I just feel bad for you. You have to feel like no one cares.
Yeah. And Chapel Hill, of course, is the class of this district. They're 29-2 overall on the season. But Pine Tree actually handed them a loss in district play. The Pirates are 11-2, so they're just a game behind Chapel Hill. With Chapel Hill having lost at Pine Tree 56-53, they then got some can't talk this morning. They then got some revenge in a rematch on January the 29th, 49-40. So Chapel Hill will definitely clinch the outright district championship with a win over Carthage. So a lot of stuff going on there, particularly in those Carthage, Chapel Hill, Gilmer, Kilgore games in terms of meaning something for postseason play.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's going to be an exciting night in that district.
District 13, 3A now. Mount Pleasant Chapel Hill will be at Hughes Springs this evening. New Diana is at Harmony, and Jefferson is at Dangerfield. The Bulldogs lead the district here. Actually, they are already the district champ at 26 overall, 8-0 in district play. Chapel Hill is already the clinched the runner-up spot. Hughes Springs will be third, and Dangerfield is missing a lot of scores on Max Prep, but according to the standings, they're in fourth place, and I believe they probably do have that fourth spot based on everything I could see.
Yeah.
I apologize.
In this district, though, it's all about Jefferson. And I've got their athletic director, Ty Taylor, coming on my show Thursday to talk about the boys and the girls. Both expected to maybe make a little noise, that the boys a little more so. Of course, they were regional finalists last year before bowing out to Tatum, the eventual state champion. So anxious to see if they can get on another deep run this year.
District 14, 3A, New Boston is at Redwater. Atlanta is at DeKalb. Liberty ILO, which is the district champ, is at Queen City. And then Hooks is off tonight. Their season is already done, at least their regular season, as they are the runner-up behind Liberty ILO, which enters the game 27-4 overall, 11-0 in district play. Interesting matchup there, though, for the third and fourth spots, Matt. Redwater, Atlanta, and Queen City going into tonight's action are all tied. So you've got a 3-way tie for 2 spots.
Yeah.
So that breaks down here to just kind of how this season ends. Queen City has drawn the short straw here in that they are hosting Liberty ILO, which is undefeated in district play. That's a tough challenge for the Bulldogs. So let's just looking at face value, Liberty ILO probably is the heavy favorite in that one to beat Queen City. Will knock it down to a 2-team race between Atlanta and Redwater, who split their season series. So not knowing what how the tiebreakers outside of that fall within the district will be interesting to see who comes out of that district.
Who are they playing? Who's Atlanta and Redwater playing?
Atlanta is at DeKalb, which is 1-10, and Redwater is hosting New Boston, which is 4-7.
Okay, so if they both win, that you would think they're going to be in because of the tough matchup for Queen.
Yeah, Atlanta would definitely be the favorite going to DeKalb, although they are 9-13 overall for the overall record. And then Redwater, of course, has a little bit tougher challenge based on record coming into that one, but they are playing at home against New Boston. So we'll know maybe a little bit more tomorrow as far as to how that plays out. But again, some drama going into the season finale tonight in District
Yeah.
14 3A.
Yep, should be good.
Very quickly here, District 15 3A, Quitman will be at Edgewood, Grand Saline at Malakoff, Mineola at Winona, and Eustis is off. We include that because some of our closer districts here will be playing them in by-district. But all 4 playoff spots are already settled in this district with Edgewood, Grand Saline, Mineola, and Winona having already clinched playoff spots.
Good deal.
16 3A, Troop will be at Sabine, West Rusk is at Art, Tatum will be at White Oak, and Gladewater is Idle. The way this district breaks down, Troop, Tatum, and Gladewater are already in. Of course, that's big for Tatum, the defending state champs. And the winner of West Rusk versus Art being played tonight will win the final playoff spot. So you basically got a play-in game happening in the season finale. Man, that's great district scheduling right there.
Yeah, it's pretty cut and dried right there. I mean,
yeah, West Rusk comes into that one, 16 and 14 overall. They're on the road at Art, which is 11 and 13 overall, both tied at 5 and 6 in district.
Yep.
Okay, in the 2A ranks here, as we close out our high school boys section here from the press box on the Right Team podcast, District 21 2A, Linden Kildare is closing out their season tonight on the road at Big Sandy. McLeod will be at Hawkins, or City will be at Harleton, and Union Grove is Idle. Playoff spots here already set. With the standings, Hawkins, McLeod, Union Grove, and Big Sandy are in, with Hawkins actually leading the district at 26 and 6 overall, 11 and 0 in league play.
Yeah,
they're actually playing McLeod tonight. I think for the district championship, McLeod comes into that one 10 and 1.
Yeah, which obviously that means McLeod's one loss is
right.
The Hawkins. So it'd be curious to see. I mean, if McLeod gets them and they're both 11 and 1, it depends probably if they're both in the D1 bracket or if one's in D1 and one's in D2, because you don't need to play a play-in game for the district championship if they're in different divisions. But if they're in the same division, they're probably going to have to play Friday night to see who's going to be the 1 seed and who's going to be the 2. So could have a back-to-back night. Could be a week where they play each other twice.
And honestly, depending on who you're gotten by district, it doesn't mean that much. I know some coaches, and I've talked to some coaches, would rather give their kids a rest than play that game and would be okay with a coin flip. But it also depends on your matchups and how your brackets play out, the draw you get on the other side too to play that out. So
if that district you're matched up has a top 10 team as the number 1, you're probably like, let's go ahead and play.
Let's play this one out.
Yeah,
for sure. Now, our last district that we're going to talk about this morning, 23 2A. You will have some intimate knowledge of this one, I'm sure, Matt. Garrison will be at Timpson this evening. Gary is at Beckville. Elysian Fields played Wascom last night, and Tenaha actually played Joaquin. So a couple of these games have already been played. But these playoff spots are already set with Beckville, Gary, EF, and Timpson being in the playoffs.
Yeah, Beckville and Gary are 1 and 2, and even if Gary beats them tonight, it'll stay that way. I believe EF secured the 3 with the win over Wascom. I don't know what happened in Tenaha's game last night, because I know heading into last night, Wascom still had a shot if they had beaten EF and Timpson lost. But EF in a good game beat them 79-72. So EF will be the number 3 in that district. And again, now you got to wonder, how does it all shake out? I would imagine, I don't know who's going to be the bigger ones there, but the Elysian Fields girls are in the playoffs tonight playing St. Augustine. The Elysian Fields boys have wrapped up a spot, and so they'll get ready next week for the playoffs as well.
And we'll again talk more about the girls' games going on this evening, as well as how the boys do on tomorrow's show. We'll track all that down for you here on the Right Team podcast and tomorrow's show. Let's move on now to the NCAA top 25 of the night. A pretty light night in terms of top 25 action, although there was a big game up in Ames, Iowa on the men's side, with Iowa State knocking off the newly ranked number 2 Houston Cougars 70-67 there in a big physical game played there between these two Big 12 Titans, if you will. Iowa State's on a bit of a heater right now, particularly at home with back-to-back wins over Kansas and Houston.
Really good game. The Big 12 right now is it's so much fun to watch.
It's a heavyweight fight every night.
It is.
All at each other.
And It's funny. We've started this, and of course, I didn't update the bracketology after just a Monday night. There weren't that many
Right.
games. We're not going to do that till after Wednesday night. But just to kind of let you know the insight of how the whole bracket game works. A lot of people are probably like, so is Iowa State now 1 and Houston falls down? And what about what you saw last night from Houston said, oh, obviously they should drop? They went on the road to a top 6 or 7 team and lost by 3 points. In a game they actually led by 10 at one point. Iowa State just went on a run late. The bracket doesn't react the way we fans react. And I think that's what's really important to understand. Houston is very much still in contention for a 1 seed. They're still at the top of the Big 12 standings. Iowa State, that was a big win to kind of solidify right now as a 2. Are they a 1 now? No. Are they in the conversation for it? Yeah, it kind of depends on what happens the rest of the way. The real story there was the atmosphere in Ames, the way that Iowa State team, Iowa State's one of those teams that even a big time college basketball fan like me, if you were saying, hey, can you name 3 or 4 starters from their team? I'd have to really stop and think for a while. Whereas Houston, we're in this mindset of freshmen of talking about Darren Peterson, who we've talked about is a phenomenal talent, but seems to take every other game off. Boozer at Duke, who is just going off. Debansa at BYU is going off. Kingston Flemings at Houston is a sight to behold. He is fun to watch against top-ranked competition. He averages about 25 a game, which means he's really good in all the games, but he elevates it against the best teams. So he was just great to watch as always. But, man, what an atmosphere there in Ames, and what a win for Iowa State.
Yeah, it was a great college basketball experience and environment for sure. And you go back to the bracket thing. This is the thing that separates this sport, college basketball, from college football. You would expect to see a Houston fall in the rankings after that. However, I agree with you. I don't see this affecting their overall seeding that much.
Yeah.
And again, you get to the end of the season and you get these, they love to call them resumes, but that's what it is. It's your body of work. They are building their body of work. And right now, last night's loss on the road against number 6, Iowa State, it's not going to hurt them too much, particularly with it going down to the wire like it did.
I'll go even further than that. I don't think it hurt them at all.
I don't either. I would fully expect them to be ranked 2 or 3 next week. Unless something happens the rest of the week.
Yeah, I think it helped Iowa State some. And the rankings are funny. Like a lot of people don't realize this either. Like it really hit me one year, when Gonzaga was starting to establish themselves as a power. And what really the first thing that really got me digging into how the bracket works, one year Gonzaga was ranked number 6 in the nation. Okay, so the number 6 team overall, according to the rankings, which if you go based on the rankings would have you as what, maybe a 2 seed? Because the top 4 teams would be 1s and the next 4 would be 2. They were a 6 seed, which you would think would have them somewhere in the 20s. Why? Because they don't look at the rankings. They look at at efficiency ratings. They look at strength of schedule and things like that. That's why, it's interesting to watch. You see a team like Connecticut, who's number 5 in the nation right now in the AP poll and in the coaches poll. In most of the power ratings, they're about number 9 or number 10. So, these rankings, I mean, the coaches poll, I always throw that out the window. It's ridiculous. And the media poll, even there, you're going to get some biases worked in. So if you're wondering why a team seeded this when they're ranked this, just know that little number you see, the only time that little number means anything is when the bracket's announced. That's when that little number means something.
Right. The only other top 25 game played Monday night was a laugher at Duke. They knock off Syracuse. How the mighty have fallen, 101-64. That drops the Orangemen down to 6-8 in the ACC. Most likely not making the NCAA tournament with that. The Blue Devils improved to 24-2, 13-1 in the ACC. They are strong, ranked third in the country, but again, most likely a number one seed come tournament time.
Yep, no doubt about it. I would have them. Well, you saw it yesterday. They're the number 2 overall team in mine and in most. I think what's going to be fascinating. I don't know if you've looked ahead to Saturday. We're going to talk about this more this weekend. Arizona and Houston, Duke and Michigan. Those are 2 matchups. If you're wondering what the polls say, that's number 1 and number 3, and number 2 and number 4.
You can easily see that as a Final Four matchup.
Yeah, I mean, gonna be just elite stuff to watch on Saturday.
Any, I know we've got a full slate of top 25 games tonight. Any of those games you would recommend for us to watch tonight, Matt? The games coming on tonight.
Yes, if you got Peacock, I would tune in at 5:30 as Michigan heads to Purdue.
Yes.
What a week for Michigan, playing Purdue and Duke. Goal. Purdue is one of those teams that had a little blip with a 3-game stretch and now has suddenly reestablished. If they beat Michigan here, they're not only solidly a 2, but they're saying you can't count us out yet in the 1 seed conversation. So that one is a big one. How about Will Wade at North Carolina State? Boy, just a guy that really rubbed people the wrong way at LSU and then got booted off for what would have been perfectly legal like 2 years later. And goes to McNeese State and becomes a tournament. They won a game last year in the tournament, gets hired by North Carolina State. They're in the field, but not like safely in. They host North Carolina. Of course, that we always talk about North Carolina Duke. North Carolina and North Carolina State's a rivalry as well. North Carolina without their big time freshman. In fact, NC State's a 6.5-point favorite in this game. That's on ESPN at 6 o'clock. And then at 6 o'clock, how about Miami of Ohio, 25-0 on the road against UMass, trying to remain undefeated. That's one I'm watching. And then the other one, this is one of those underrated rivalries in football, and I figure it'll apply in basketball too. At 8 o'clock, Nebraska, number 9, goes on the road against Iowa. They play every year on that Friday after Thanksgiving in football. These 2 teams don't like each other. These 2 states, I think, don't like each other. I think it has to do with which one's better at corn. I don't know. But it's Iowa's not safely in, and Nebraska's still trying to make their case for a really high seed. So that's a big one at 8 o'clock on the Big Ten Network.
Have you ever driven through Iowa?
Little sliver of it, not like all the way through it.
Well, several years ago, we took a couple of trips up to Minnesota to visit some family around Christmas time. And I'm telling you, you do not want to be driving through Iowa during a blizzard or at night, because the danger of falling asleep while driving through that state at night in particular is real, because there is literally nothing but cornfields. I mean, the image that you have, you just said, the battle for corn is real.
It is.
Just tell you that it is real.
I'll tell you, and kind of sticking with this whole Big Ten thing. Last night we talked about the Big 12 game. There's 4 Big Ten games. Every one of them involves at least one ranked team. And the ones that only involve one ranked team, they're playing a bubble team. So it's a big night in the Big Ten. The Big Ten Network has a game at 8 o'clock. Fox Sports 1 has one at 7:30. Peacock's got that Michigan Purdue game at 5:30, and then they got UCLA Michigan State at 7:30. So Big Ten kind of takes center stage this evening, I think.
Shifting over to the women's side on the top 25, a very light night as well on Monday. Just one top 25 game or 25 team in action. Speaking of Iowa and Nebraska, number 13, Iowa knocks off Nebraska on the road 80-67. The Hawkeyes improved to 11-3 in the Big Ten while dropping the Cornhuskers down to 5-10 for the ladies. And then tonight, again, just one top 25 women's game on the slate. In the SEC, number 21 Tennessee will be at number 17 Ole Miss. They're in Oxford. That game will start at 6 o'clock tonight on ESPNU. So kind of a light couple of nights here in terms of top 25 women's basketball here at the start of the week.
usually bigger on Wednesday and Thursday. Not surprised that the lone game is a ranked versus ranked team against SEC competition. So not surprised there.
Let's talk a little bit of Olympics here, Matt. And I know we've kind of dipped our toe in these waters with a couple of episodes for the most part. Look, and I've made this well known. I'm not really into the Winter Olympics as much as I am to the Summer Olympics in particular, mainly because of one of my notes here that we're going to talk about in just a second. I don't understand the sports that are involved in the Winter Olympics for the most part. And again, I have my theories on what I deem to be a legitimate quote sport as opposed to a quote competition. I know some people have no idea what I'm talking about when I say that. But maybe at some point in time when I feel a little more secure, I might release that out into the world and get ready for the wave of disagreement that comes from it inevitably. But I did want to make note of the women's hockey here. That is a sport that I can watch and follow somewhat. I don't really know all the rules in hockey. Number one, it's really hard, unless you follow the Olympics, you don't really realize that they do have women's hockey. And I do believe they played at some colleges over here in the States. Obviously, they have women hockey players, and they're very dominant, very similar to the women's soccer on that side in the summertime. But it was very interesting to me here. Of course, our Team USA won yesterday. They cruised past Sweden in a semifinal game, 5-0, and so they will be playing for the gold medal against Canada on Thursday of this week. The interesting thing about that is women's hockey debuted at the 1998 Nagano Games. So we are about, I think, 7 or 8 Olympic cycles into women's hockey as being an Olympic sport. Every gold medal game has been Team USA versus Canada.
Yeah, that's right.
And you talk about dominance between these two teams. The U.S. has won 2 of those, and the Canadians have won the other 5.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, going into Thursday, United States is the favorite in this one. Canada's had a little bit more tougher Olympic journey than Team USA has here, but we'll be going for another Olympic hockey gold for Team USA on the women's side in hockey on Thursday.
Yep, that's a big one. And hockey, I feel like for us Americans, hockey seems to be the one that sort of just, it's that or figure skating that stands out to us about the Olympics. And our women's hockey is something else, no doubt about it.
Of course, we have the Shreveport Mudbugs over here, right? As that that professional lower level hockey team in Shreveport Bossier. And I've been told, of course, ECBU has a hockey team, right? College hockey team.
Correct.
I've been told by someone you can't truly appreciate the sport until you go see it in person and get all the sights and the sounds and see it, all the checking up against the boards and everything that goes into that. You can't truly appreciate and get excited about hockey just by watching it on TV.
Right.
I've yet to be able to go to a hockey game or chosen to go to one. I would like to go to a Dallas Stars game at some point. Maybe that would give me a little bit more knowledge about the game. But I do get a little bit geeked out when we get to the Olympics and you have, hockey going on, because that's the one thing I can relate to a little bit over here in the States. As Jack Stallard said, it's an unfair advantage for Norway in the Winter Olympics because everything they do is on ice. Right?
Yeah, seriously.
So, they're going to have an advantage over us there. Speaking of ice in the Winter Olympics, USA's Elena Myers-Taylor won the first Olympic gold in the monobob. Do you know what the monobob is? Just off the top of your head.
I had to read about, I know what the bobsled is, so I assumed it was just a one-person bobsled.
Well, let me tell you here. I broke it down thanks to ChatGPT. So I said, what is monobob? Okay. It's a one-person bobsled that is part of what they call the sport of bobsleigh. Now, again, not being that into the Winter Olympics, I haven't followed the trends and everything, but I can remember the bobsled and I can remember the luge.
Yeah.
Apparently they've added some of this into a sport that's now called bobsleigh. So it is one athlete on a one-person bobsled, very similar to luge, but you have to push the sled at the start and drive it down the track. Okay. Speeds can reach 75 to 90 miles per hour. It was made an Olympic event at the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing. So it's just in its second Olympic cycle. Introduced as a women's event to expand gender equality in sliding sports. Okay. So it's just another way of getting on a bobsled and competing in the Olympics, but that's what's called the monobob.
And she's 41 years. She's 41 years old. She's
a former traditional bobsledder who's transferred over into this monosled competition.
I'll tell you, it's some of these sliding sports like the luge and the skeleton. You know, one of them you go down on your belly. You know, I saw someone post a funny thing on the internet that said how much they love Winter Olympics compared to summer, and the video was, you know, Summer Olympics, let's run around the track and see who's fastest, and Winter Olympics, let's go down an icy slide with twists and turns and let's do it head first. You know,
go 75, 80, 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, Summer Olympics, what if we just ran around the track a second time and see who's fastest? Winter Olympics, let's attach razor sharp blades to our legs and then speed around an icy surface with nothing but a helmet on. You know, it's just funny. It's wild stuff to watch.
Well, at least in the bobsled competitions, again, the traditional bobsled, which is a team, 2 or 4 people, and then you have this monosled, which is basically a one-man bobsled is what it is. At least you have some sort of protection and covering around you in a vehicle form.
Yeah.
With a bobsled. You do this luge and the skeleton where you're basically, you're just on a big ski and a sled, and you are out in the open. And as you said, with the skeleton, you are face first heading down that thing again, 90 miles per hour. Man, it takes some guts to do that. It really does. I'm not one of those kinds that has that kind of guts to do that in particular. So, but anyway, the United States won a gold medal. So congratulations to Elena Myers-Taylor, who won the first Olympic gold medal for the USA in monobob. Real quickly here, since we're talking about the Olympics, a little bit of a medal count as we enter this morning, looking at ESPN. Norway, of course, still leads. Speaking of Norway and ice, their ice dominance. With 30 total medals, 13 of those are gold. Italy is next with 24 medals and 9 of those being gold. And then the USA comes in at 20 total medals with 6 gold medals, with opportunity, at least in hockey, to win a couple more.
For sure.
Okay, that's your Olympic update today, and we'll see if we get back to it tomorrow. Just kind of depends on the headlines that come from it. But that brings us to our, I don't know, this is maybe my favorite segment of the day because we get to just look at some different things. It's called the Back Page, which is just kind of Matt and I's random journey through the headlines of the day and just some things that stand out to us. Matt, start us off with some things you have for us today on the Back Page.
Well, I always like to stay local. I mean, it's what we are at KMHT. First baseball game for Jackson Hood as head coach of the Marshall Mavericks was last night. They've had scrimmages, but last night was the first game for him as head coach, first official game that counts in the win-loss record, and they get a 5-0 win in Longview over the Lobos.
Nice start.
As a Marshall guy, can you get anything better than shutting out Longview for your first game as head coach?
Yeah, nowhere to go but down from there.
Yeah, thought that was pretty cool. So congrats to him. Congrats to the Marshall Maverick baseball team. We'll be covering them on the Heartbeat. I'm looking forward. I'll be on the call later on this year when we get closer to district play. But what a way to get things started. I thought it was worthy of a shout out. If you wondered how well the second Coach Hood we've added to this area would do, it's a heck of a start. So congrats to him and the Mavericks.
My Back Page has a couple of items on it here that I wanted to mention. You mentioned local. Camden Scott of Tatum was named the Week 13 Miss Texas Basketball Player of the Week.
Wow.
Which is sponsored by Chicken Express. I know their season ended last night, but last week she scored 40 points in a game against West Rusk. And for that, Camden was named the Miss Texas Basketball Player of the Week. So congratulations to her. They did their season did end last night against Quitman in the playoffs. But anyway, hats off to her for that tremendous honor. Okay, and some other things that I've come across as I've studied Twitter overnight, which can be a dangerous thing, but
Oh, yes.
to bring on the air. But a couple of things that I wanted to make mention of. First of all, I don't know if you saw this little snippet of an interview with Corey Seager at Ranger spring training, and there's been a little bit of a controversy since the trade of Marcus Semien. Allegedly, depending on who you listen to, there was some beef between Seager and Semien in the Rangers clubhouse pretty much the last couple of years. Just two personalities that don't mesh. And I don't know how closely our listeners follow the Rangers. Pretty much that dominates my sports fandom. Well, starting here actually right now until probably September. And there was some, when these two signed, they signed together prior to the 2022 season. And kind of made the splash headlines of doubling the Rangers payroll just with their contracts.
Yeah.
But if you follow that, it was almost like a package deal. They were meant to be a package deal. Seager, of course, is Corey Seager, World Series hero, World Series MVP, a league MVP candidate every year. He's that kind of superstar player that you want. Semien was supposed to be more of the clubhouse leader, vocal voice that Seager's side would shy away from typically. And that's kind of how they saw each other.
Yeah.
And there were rumors that came out at the end of last season, of course, that there was a bit of a rift there between those two, that Seager may not have been viewed as intense enough by Semien or available enough. Who knows what went on behind those closed doors. But I do know that Marcus Semien was traded this offseason and only Seager remains. And Corey was asked that question yesterday at camp, and he basically blew it off with a quote that just said this: "That's just all speculation. We had a fine relationship. We both respect each other. We're both professional, and we knew how to go about our business and try to accomplish a goal. We did that in 23. You cannot take that away from us." So I don't know if that's going to totally do away with those rumors. It's not really. He didn't come around and say no, we didn't have any problems. He just kind of speculation and some of the talk that's going around. But to hear him speak about it, I think hopefully goes a long way to kind of putting that to bed.
Yeah.
Because I did like Marcus Semien. Kind of sad to see him get traded, even though his production had dropped off tremendously the last couple of years. Something had to happen, and that was really the big move as far as trying to improve their offense when they got Brandon Nimmo in here, who is most likely going to be their new leadoff hitter. So
yeah.
Anyway, good to see that yesterday. Hopefully that was just much ado about nothing, and it does not linger on into a clubhouse issue going into the season, because you can't have that if you're going to win a World Series.
No, you don't want any part of that for sure. And yeah, I'm with you there. I certainly hope it's not anything lingering.
Other big news out there for our Texas Aggie fans: your head football coach Mike Elko signed a new 6-year, $69 million contract with Texas A&M yesterday. I'm no mathematician, but that's over $10 million a year for Elko, which is kind of bold.
Yeah.
I don't mean this to say anything other than just stating facts. He hasn't won a playoff game yet, and he's 0-2 against Texas.
Yep.
So, some of us on my side of the ledger there would say, good job done. Great job. Signing him to that contract while you're still paying Jimbo Fisher all that money.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't know
that much money.
Sure, we could track that down. I'm not quite sure what they're paying coaches right now at Texas A&M football coaches, but you could pay down a lot of the national debt.
Yeah, it's yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Finally, our last segment here, this date in sports history, February the 17th, as we sit here, 2026. New York Yankees outfielder Joe DiMaggio. You remember Joltin' Joe?
Sure.
This is the date which he enlisted in the United States Army.
Okay.
Right in the middle of spring training on February 17th, 1943, in the middle of World War II. A lot of baseball players did that back then. Went and fought for their country during the Great War. I don't know that I could envision this generation doing that.
No. Well, of course, I can't envision anybody really. It's all done with drones, it feels like nowadays. But yeah,
that's true. That's true.
But yeah, no, point well taken.
Back then, you had professional athletes walking away from contracts or taking a bit of a sabbatical to go fight in a war. And
You
so
did.
kudos
You
to
did.
Joe and Joe for doing that, because he was a star. He was a big time star right in the middle of all of this.
No doubt about it.
Did it. On February the 17th of 1974, you into auto racing, Matt?
Not much.
Yeah, that's okay. You can say that around here. You got plenty of auto racing fans
You do.
to make up the slack for us. But on this date in 1974, Richard Petty became the first driver to win back-to-back titles at the Daytona 500.
I do know about Richard Petty.
Have we had Daytona yet?
I think
No,
we've already
it's
had
coming
it.
up this month.
Or is it coming up?
I think it's coming up. I'm sorry. I apologize. I should have had that information. It's Daytona season. So anyway, King Richard became the first driver back then that won 2 in a row. And then on February 17th of 1998, again, we've mentioned the U.S. women's hockey team beat Canada to win the first Olympic gold medal in women's hockey. Those two teams will be going at it again this coming Thursday for another gold medal in hockey. But that happened on this date for the first time in 1998.
The Daytona 500 just happened over the weekend, and Tyler Reddick was the winner. So there you go.
Well, there you go. News hot off the press here, just a couple of days late for us.
Yeah, I'm not going to call that hot off the press, but yeah, no.
yeah, and that just kind of shows you again. I don't watch a lot of racing. I do. I have a lot of buddies that are into that, and can sit there for hours and watch guys drive circles around the track. There's some allure to that, and I get it, but I can't do that for that long.
Yeah.
No, I got to get up and do something. Okay, sports birthdays on this date to make mention of, and this is a cool one right here that I wanted to mention today. You ever heard the name Wally Pipped?
Yes.
Wally Pipped was a World Series winning first baseman with the New York Yankees in 1923. He played for the Yankees for 10 seasons. He actually averaged 30 home runs a year for about 3 years during there, which was a pretty big number back in those days.
Yeah.
To get to 30. So he was a solid player, a solid starter for the Yankees. Well, he was born on this date in 1893 in Chicago. The biggest thing about Wally Pipped, if you remember, was on June 2nd, 1925. I don't know if you've heard this story. He reportedly showed up to the ballpark with a headache. Okay. And depending on who you ask, and some of the versions that come out of this, he either asked to be out of the lineup or the manager decided for him that he would not play that day. The manager at the time was Miller Huggins. Well, he puts in a young backup at first base. Do you remember who that was?
I do not.
Lou Gehrig.
Lou Gehrig
played his first game on a day when Wally Pipped had a headache and couldn't play. It was the first of 2,130 consecutive games that Lou Gehrig would play. Wally Pipped was traded the following year, and he had a famous quote, "I took the day off and lost my job."
Gosh, what a story.
That has developed a famous cautionary tale that major leaguers use even today, and it says, hey, when you're taking a day off, be sure you don't get Wally Pipped.
That's great.
Yeah, so he's a legend. Probably didn't know it after that, but old Wally was born today on this date in 1893.
Wow.
You'll know this one a little bit more. Hall of Fame running back Jim Brown with the Cleveland Browns was born on February the 17th of 1936 in St. Simons, Georgia. Jim Brown was a 3-time NFL MVP and, of course, was the league's all-time leading rusher. The very first one I knew of could hear about in my lifetime until he was surpassed by Walter Payton of the Chicago Bears. He also went into acting in such films like The Dirty Dozen. Well, he actually passed away in 2023, but he was born. This is his birthday, born in 1936. And then I know you'll know this one. I'm surprised you don't know birthdays like this, Matt. But Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Michael Jordan, 6-time NBA champion, held by many, including me, as the greatest to ever play the game, was born on February the 17th, 1963. MJ turns 63 today.
Wow.
63 years old, Michael Jordan. Then again, a couple of notes here on some key or probably notable deaths on this date in the sports world. Lefty Gomez, who's a Hall of Fame MLB pitcher with the Yankees, 7-time All-Star, appeared in 5 World Series. He passed away on this date in 1989 at the age of 80 due to congestive heart failure. And Lefty Driesell, basketball Hall of Fame coach, first to win 100 or more games at 4 different schools.
Wow.
First of all, that takes some longevity, but you also got to know how to coach to do that.
Yeah, you do.
But he was the first to do that. He passed away just a couple of years ago on February the 17th, Coach Driesell.
Wow.
passed away. And again, just a couple of notes on that. It's just kind of interesting. Both of them named Lefty, or that's what they
That's
go
right. That's right.
So anyway, just some interesting facts that I always like to share here to close out our time together on the Right Team podcast. And that's it for today's From the Press Box here on the podcast. Thanks for watching and listening. If you enjoy the show, please help us out by subscribing on YouTube. It's very easy to just click that little thumbs up button and become a subscriber to our show. And if you're listening via the traditional podcast, it's also available. Please also give us a like or a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you access your favorite podcasts. That helps us grow the show and ensures that you don't miss an episode. Once again, give a shout out here to our awesome podcast sponsors, East Texas Baptist University, Styles Electric, and Right Team Services for their support of our podcast. And our final word today comes from 2 John 1:6. It says, "This is love, that we walk according to his commands. This is the command, as you have heard it from the beginning, that you walk in love." Love each other like Jesus loves us, right, teamers? Let everything you do today be done in love. Imagine, Matt, how our world could change if we all just did that every day.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Thanks
sir.
again to my co-host, Matt Paul. And once again, this is your host, David Weaver. We'll be back here tomorrow for another edition of From the Press Box on the Right Team podcast. And until then, as always, keep writing your story.